First up, we have Danny Measday, Natural Sciences Conservator here at Museums Victoria and producer of the science storytelling event Laborastory, who will discuss a preventive conservation project recently conducted with Museum Victoria's meteorite collection. Danny is so passionate about her job that she has made her family come here tonight to hear her speak about it before they can go out to dinner for her sister's birthday. So please welcome Danny Measday, and happy birthday, Beck.
Lizzie really threw me under the bus with that one. Happy birthday, Beck. I am a good sister, I promise. Hello and welcome. I'm just going to move this on. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Just wondering, are there any history buffs in the audience? Yes, I thought there might be a few, considering this is the Australian Heritage Festival. So I thought you might get a kick out of this. Meteorites are by far the oldest thing in the Museum Victoria collection. They're older than dinosaurs. They are older than life. They are older than the Earth. Some of them are even older than the formation of our solar system. They are the oldest material available on this planet, period. And this is what makes them so incredibly valuable to science. They're a unique source of information about the formation and history of our solar system, because while the rocks on Earth have been reprocessed by geological forces over millions and millions of years, most meteorites have never experienced any reprocessing and are just as they were when the solar system was formed. So by examining a meteorite, we're looking at the chemical composition of the solar system and other planets through history. Okay, my role as the Conservator of Natural Sciences is to facilitate scientific research on the collections. And to do this, I need to make sure that the specimens are preserved in a chemically stable condition to ensure that they last long into the future. So despite their longevity, meteorites can be very vulnerable to weathering in Earth's atmosphere. And I'll give you an example. So particularly vulnerable are iron and stony iron meteorites, which are prone to corrosion due to their high metal contents. But some specimens are much more reactive than others, sometimes because they contain reactive minerals as part of their chemical composition, or because they've been contaminated with chloride ions during periods of burial. The chemical weathering begins underground, but it really kicks into gear once the meteorite is dug up and exposed to dry but more oxygen-rich conditions, and they behave a lot like archaeological iron in that respect. And voluminous corrosion products, I always put that into presentations even though I cannot say it. Voluminous corrosion products like acagonite form and expand inside the corrosion layers, producing pressure that causes the outer corrosion layers to crack and flake apart. So if you have a look at this meteorite on screen, this is Cranbourne number 13. Meteorites are always named after the area that they landed, or were found. So Cranbourne 13 was obviously found in Cranbourne in Victoria. And this was about 90 kilos. Pictured here shortly after it was dug up from a Cranbourne backyard in 2008. And this is it. The same meteorite when I began working for Museum Victoria in 2013, so 5 years later. So despite being stored in a climate-controlled museum, it is very difficult to prevent active corrosion of unstable and chloride-contaminated iron meteorites, even when the relative humidity in the storage environment is significantly reduced. And although some treatment options do exist to remove chloride contamination from meteorites, and they've seen some limited success elsewhere, they're also very interventive, and we don't really want to cause any changes to the meteorite which may interfere with scientific research on the specimen. The size of Museum Victoria's collection also means a preventative approach is a bit more effective use of my time as well. So what we can do is create a modified environment to store the meteorite in, which actively prevents chemical decomposition. The materials we're using create an environment which has less than 0.03% oxygen and will be 0% relative humidity. So removing oxygen and moisture removes the primary reactants that allows corrosion to occur. So these modified storage environments are technology adapted directly from the food preservation industry, so it's essentially modified atmosphere packaging. So it keeps both your veggies fresh and your meteorites stable, Victorian citizens. So you can see an anoxic microclimate on the screen. So the yellow and white sachets next to the specimen are a product called the Mitsubishi Revolutionary Preservation System, which I call the RP system because that is a mouthful indeed. So this is type A oxygen scavengers, and RPA has an incorporated desiccant, so it's ideal for specimens requiring very low humidity conditions as well as an oxygen-free microenvironment. So the sachets will strongly react with and bind up oxygen within that enclosure. And the enclosure itself is made from a barrier film called Escal, which is the best commercially available transparent transparent barrier film on the market because it has the lowest transmission rates for oxygen and water. And Escal is actually a ceramic barrier film, which is really cool, meaning that it has a really finely deposited layer of silica in between its structure. And the little pink pill that you can see above the specimen, I could point. This one here is what's called an ageless eye, and this will turn blue when it's exposed to more than 0.3% oxygen. There's also a humidity indicator card in there to show the RH inside the environment too. So microclimate like this, when it's well made and well maintained, is predicted to last up to 20 years. And I say predicted because it's such a new technology to conservation that we don't actually have that data yet, but that's how long it's been predicted to last, which is where this gadget comes in, which I recently purchased and I'm very excited about. So this is an OxyBaby M+ gas analyzer, which you can use to, the crowd's excited, can use to periodically test microclimates and ensure that they are still effective. This instrument has a little needle sampler on the end of it. I don't know if you can see on the screen down here. So that's a little needle that you can use to pierce through barrier films, sample the gas inside and give you a readout of the O2 level in there. The puncher in the bag can then just be quickly sealed with a aluminium gas barrier tape. So as I worked through the meteorite collection, I was also able to make some improvements by cleaning excess corrosion products off meteorite surfaces and replacing or custom making extra strong boxes for specimens, as well as repairing, flattening and cleaning specimen labels as well. So you can see when you try to pick up a 30 kilogram meteorite with a cardboard box, the meteorite wins and the box does not win. I also worked with the museum's media production team, specifically our incomparable photographer Rod Start, to have all the meteorites digitised. So there's a record of the specimens, current condition, and all the images are made publicly available on Museum Victoria's collection online website, which you can see scrolling through here. So if you're interested, you can check them out on there as well. Oh, there we go. And all of this would not have been possible without the tireless enthusiasm and hard work of my team of excellent volunteers, who I can't possibly thank enough. So Robin here is holding a little piece of the moon, a little piece of Mars, so that's the Nacala meteorite, so a little piece of Mars. Sarah with a piece of the Henbury meteorite, which is a big iron meteorite that fell in the Northern Territory, and Tim on the end with a slice of the moon. So you can see how happy they are to be holding such magnificent specimens. So I thought I would finish by showing a little clip from an episode of Discover, which was made by the Tiny Empire Collective, and will be available next week on the museum's YouTube channel. Because it has some really lovely shots of the meteorite collection, and you can see some of the micro-environments being made. So I thought I'd play that for you so you can have a look.
Danny Measday is a conservator specialising in natural science, one of only 2 in Australia.
I work across all of the sciences collections, so zoology, paleontology and rocks and minerals as well. It adds up to around 15 million or so specimens, give or take. So because the sciences collection is so big, I work a lot more preventatively. So rather than repairing something when it's broken, we try to prevent that from happening.
But she also creates worlds. Microclimates, to be precise.
One of the ways that we can conserve our collection and keep it in good condition is to use microclimates. So this is a meteorite inside a microclimate, and inside this packet there will be no oxygen and no moisture. And oxygen and moisture are 2 of the things that are needed for corrosion to form. So this is essentially just a sealed enclosure that we can add oxygen scavengers into, and the oxygen scavengers remove both moisture and oxygen from that little environment, and that completely stops corrosion dead in its tracks.
Conservators are essential to the work of museums around the world. They slow down time itself to protect these precious objects and their stories for generations to come.
For coming to listen to our talks today. I'm really excited to hear what what my colleagues' projects have been working on as well. And just a note that if you do find any suspicious or magnetic rocks in your garden, please send our Discovery Centre some photos, because you may have uncovered a little piece of the history of the universe. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Does anyone have any questions for Danny? Yep.
Oh, that is a good question. We have probably maybe 60 or so kilos of it. I'm sure there's other bits in other museums, so I think it was probably a fairly big shower, that one. Yeah. Don't off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Oh, Penny?
How much of the moon do you have in the collection?
We have just that little slice that you saw, and then we also have some specimens on loan from NASA as well, which are on display in Dynamic Earth. So if you wanted to go have a look, you could go see them in the galleries.
And over here?
Probably a stupid question, but if you dig it in your garden and you find a big bit of what looks like metal, how do you know it's not just a big bit of metal or a meteorite?
Yeah, that is a great question, actually. So we actually have experts, our meteorology curator is pretty good at spotting them on site, but we also do have analytical equipment that can help us work that out. So we have something called an XRF, which is an X-ray fluorescence spectrographer, which can actually analyse the particular metal sort of alloy that is found in meteorites, which is not found commonly on Earth. So sort of the percentage between nickel and iron will help you work out whether you've got a stony iron or an iron meteorite, rather than just a lump of iron slag, for example. So we have something that we call Meteor Wrong Day, which is the opposite of a meteorite, where we go through and test a whole bunch of meteorites to see what we found. So we do sometimes find them, but often it's not the case. But it's good to be able to tell people what they've found in their garden. So that's part of our Discovery Centre inquiry. Sorry, I should say curious now. Recently rebranded. Yeah.
And just finally, what's your favourite meteorite?
Good question, Lizzie. I think my favourite meteorite is probably the Murchison meteorite, which fell in Murchison in Victoria a couple of weeks after the moon landing. I don't know if anyone remembers it from the news, but that one's very exciting because it smells really strongly. So it's quite interesting. It's quite, a unique thing to be able to actually smell something that is come from space. And it's also been a really fascinating meteorite. It's probably one of the most studied meteorites in the world because they found quite interesting different things inside it. It had some tiny diamonds inside it. It also had some amino acids inside it, which are the building blocks of proteins, which is, quite fascinating. So a really, really interesting one. And just, I think that unique smell is really quite fascinating to sort of experience. So, yeah.
And the space diamonds.
And space diamonds, yes. Okay, thank you, everyone.